Before we get to no left turn, what do I mean by that? Here's an incredible story from Black Box Reporter, and somebody's getting $2,000 an hour on how the cabinet, Carney cabinet, needs to talk to right-wing, so-called right-wing Republicans, or the Trump administration, or MAGA individual. Tips on how to talk to the U.S. $2,000 an hour. Some consultant is getting. Hey, I could do that job. I could tell them how to talk to common sense, principled conservatives. Stop lying. Unlike the liberals. That might be a good start, Melanie. Maybe just understand that these are people who actually largely believe what they're saying. Yeah, I know there's just a lot of chicanery going on with rhinos in the United States, but overall, I think the Trump team is a lot more acquainted with the truth than the Carney team ever will be. And of course, people are finally beginning to notice that Mark Carney was conspicuous by his absence. But this is incredible. CBC is actually trying to pretend that Mark Carney was really there, although he wasn't. So CBC is doing their part, and this is from Ryan Garrettson, always has some great posts up, doing its part to make it look like Carney is still important on the world stage this morning. They're actually showing a screenshot of Carney as proof that he's in some important virtual meeting with some of the leaders who were at the White House yesterday. Who gave them that? Clearly, the Prime Minister's office. This is our state-run media blatantly protecting his reputation, covering his ASS. Yeah, it's exactly what's going on here, because Mark Carney was conspicuous by his absence. And I think I'm probably the only outlet that's actually explained why Donald Trump didn't want Mark Carney there this week. Because Mark Carney once again made the stupid decision of putting policies that Donald Trump doesn't like in Trump's face, literally days before a meeting was scheduled to happen. Last time he did this, Carney announced he was going to recognize Palestine, like literally 48 hours before Donald Trump makes a decision on tariffs. Of course, Donald Trump makes a decision that is not good for Canada. Did Mark Carney think he was going to be at this all-important meeting of the European Union? And remember what Mark Carney likes to say.
Mark, you look like you were about to.
Yeah, it was a tell.
As a European, as a
European, I am a European, actually.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, Irish citizen. Yeah, so there you go.
Welcome.
Speaking as a European, I like to say following.
Is a picture worth 1,000 words? Well, that one is. There's European Mark Carney sitting at the World Economic Forum. There it is, right behind him, the backdrop, WEF, World Economic Forum. I'm a European, he says. Yeah, he is. He has citizenship in the UK. He probably still does. He said he was going to renounce it, but I doubt it very much. But that, of course, is Mark Carney, the European, who should be part of the European Union. He should be there. Donald Trump doesn't want him there because Mark Carney intentionally started negotiating with Sweden for potentially buying fighter aircraft, the Gripen fighter aircraft from Sweden, which we need like a hole in the head. We have to follow through and buy more Joint Strike Fighters, the F-35. That's what we've already got, 16 of them. We need to finish the order, and because it's interoperability, and this is why we need the F-35. I know some people out there say, well, it's not the best fighter. It is the fighter that all services that fly aircraft in the United States are flying. Royal Air Force, Royal Australian Air Force, all fly the F-35, and that's who we train with. That's who we operate with. Those are the countries we are most liable to be flying with. I know, I was in the Air Force for 10 years, always down with the U.S. Navy, flying with their F-18s in those days. Well, that was a long time ago. They're flying F-35s now, off carriers. United States Marines is flying F-35. United States Air Force is flying the F-35. Yeah. And Canada cannot be a country of two fighter jets. This is absolute idiocy. All right. Here's a great one from my good friend Mark Nixon. Canada named most positive leader in world state. Well, most positively stupid, I guess, but incredible. Who comes up with this? Who elected Canada as the most positive leader on the world stage? Yeah, that's enough bedtime fairy tales, folks. Now this is incredible. Now we have the autonomous self-government nation of Métis in Saskatchewan. And get this. Thank you, Jennifer L., for bringing this one to our attention. All right, buckle up for this one. The Métis Nation, Saskatchewan, is a recognized self-government in the eyes of the federal government. They are funded to the tune of $100+ million a year to operate. And their CEO, the honcho, the Grand Poobah, he's a former federal public servant. And he used to work for what used to be called Indigenous and Northern Affairs. I think they changed the name again. It used to be Indian and Northern Affairs. Trudeau changed it to Indigenous Peoples and Northern Affairs. I think Carney has changed it too, and I couldn't be bothered looking it up, but that is incredible. So a former bureaucrat is now Grand Poobah of this self-autonomizing Métis Nation. Incredible. Yes, and as I said, thanks again, Ryan, for putting this one up. There's the group photo. Yeah. They're all there except for, Mark Carney's not there. Now, Mark Carney, the European, wasn't invited. I wonder why. Yeah, it's got something to do with fighter jets and the increasing animosity that Donald Trump has towards Mark Carney. So, that's where we are with that. Here's a great one, Viva Fry, from Viva Fry. And he uses this word that I raised a couple of weeks ago, a narco-tyranny. That's a state, of course, where the government goes after its political opponents more than it goes after real criminals. So Viva Fry, David Freiheit says, this is Canada. The intruder broke into a man's house with a weapon. Now the homeowner faces charges of assault, a narco-tyranny. Do you believe it? Yeah, of course I believe it. But that's the kind of country we live in. And what else? Look at this. Ottawa moves ahead with gun confiscation plan targeting legal gun owners. This one from Juno News. So not only are you guilty of assault if you defend your property, your family, and your life from an intruder who comes in at 3 o'clock in the morning, or was it 2 o'clock? Well, regardless, it doesn't matter. He was uninvited. He came in to steal your property, perhaps potentially injure somebody. And you're not allowed to defend yourself. I'm not allowed to defend my family if somebody comes into my home. And by the way, I'm not going to have a gun to do it because the government's taking my guns away. And where are they going? Critics raise eyebrows over plan to send prohibited firearms to Ukraine war effort. You remember that? The government's collecting your firearm so they can send it to Ukraine. And Ukraine can then sell it on the black market to what? The Mexican cartels? Yes, they'll probably end up with them. Or some other terrorist group in Eastern Europe. Well, that's exactly what Ukraine does with a lot of the weapons. They sell them on the black market. We give them to them gratis, free of charge. Ukraine sells them on the black market. And we are the dupes. We are the idiots who put up with this. Canadian taxpayers are saddled with all of this billions of dollars. Carney wants to give another $2.2 billion to Ukraine. I wouldn't be surprised if he does it today. And it goes into that black hole, of Kiev. It goes into that bottomless pit and of that corrupt Ukrainian government where the president and everybody else in his government are lining their pockets with foreign cash. And I know it's disgusting. By the way, if you have a chance to read this article about Matt and Nicole Alexander, I interviewed Matt last week. It got 5,000 views. And nobody really got to see it because it was totally submerged, not suppressed, submerged on social media. So I'm tried again yesterday. I used his interview with me and my interview with Marty Moore of the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms as the basis of a Substack article. I encourage you to read this today. I really do. I encourage you to read this because this is the state of freedom in this country. Teachers can be fired, even though they were considered to be some of the best teachers at the school. They were actually Matt Alexander was actually designated as the principal when the principal was traveling or away. Matt Alexander filled in. So obviously he had the confidence of his school and his school board. But his son happened to be Josh Alexander. And Josh Alexander objected to male students using female students' bathrooms at his Ottawa area school. And Matt's wife really wasn't too enthusiastic about Pride season or Pride month at the school. So they had to be fired over that. That's the state of freedom, not the state of that's the state of non-freedom in Canada. Now I want to get into the Poilievre segment here before